Hi, I'm Kenny Joya. Welcome to another one of my tutorials. In this video, I'm going to show you how to propagate items and takes in REAPER. Now, the idea of propagating items or takes is to transfer properties from one item to multiple items in our project. Let me give an example. I have a track in front of us here with a drum beat and a synth line. Let's hear it. Pretty simple, but let's say we copied these multiple times. Let's select this, drag it over, and now let's say we adjusted or edited this item right here. We want to transfer that to these items over here, later on in the track, or even on different tracks. We could do that by using propagating. Let's first do it based on take. Now let's change some take properties. We could add effects to this by selecting it, going to Item, go down here to Take, and choose Show Effects Chain for active take. We can add an EQ, shows up right here. And let's create a low pass filter. Bring up the Q, bring up the frequency, and let's hear it. Let's add some modulation to this. And let's do it based on the audio control signal. Turn it on over here. Now it's modulating our filter based on the input signal. So let's close this. So now the EQ that we just added and the modulation is just on this item. It's not on this one. Let's change a few other things. If we right click it, we can go down over here to Take and create a Take pan envelope. Let's zoom in a bit more. Let's pan it to the left. Create another point to the right. Create a few points, going back and forth. Select them all. Copy them. And we'll paste it right here. A few times to duplicate the effect. So now it should pan left and right based on quarter notes. Again, this effect is just happening on this first item, not over here. Now let's change the pitch. We'll double click it to open the properties, go to our pitch, bring it up 20 semitones. And finally, let's change the color, because we could also change the color based on the take. Right click it, go to Item and Take Colors. Let's create a custom color for the take. We'll choose this green one. And that changes it as well. So now I can zoom out and see all three items, but they're obviously different. So if we want to add those properties from this one to these, we can do that by propagating it. We would select it, right click it, go to Item Processing, and go down here to the Propagate Actions. The first one is going to propagate take to similar named active takes on the same track. So if we choose this, it copied all that stuff to the other items. But this is where it gets interesting, because it only moves the take properties. So if we undo that, let's say we edited these a bit differently. Let's say we trim this to about half, and this one to about 3/4. We put a fade out over here and a fade in over here. We could also change the item volume up here. Let's bring it down a few dB and bring this one up a few dB. So now the item properties have been changed on these two items. So now if we propagate the take properties, the item properties are going to stay intact, but it's still going to add the take properties. Watch. Right click, item processing, propagate take to similar named active takes on track. And it does the same thing, but it keeps the item volume change, the fade, and the trims. This is trimmed the same. It fades in. This one fades out. But it copied or propagated all the take properties. So it's pretty flexible when you have multiple items treated differently on the same track. Now, if you wanted to do this at the item level, let's undo it, and let's change some item properties on the original. We can change the volume here. Let's bring it down a few dB. And let's add a fade in and a fade out on this item. Let's change the curve to be linear. So now it sounds like this. So now we can propagate this exact same thing to all of this based on the item. So it's going to move the item properties along with the take properties when we do this. So what we're going to wind up with is exact copies. Right click, item processing. I'm going to go down here to propagate item to similar named items on track, as opposed to takes. And now it does the same thing, but it includes the take and the item properties. So the fades are intact, along with the item level, -2, along with all the take properties. But it only applies to the same track, which brings up the other propagating actions. We could also perform this function on all the tracks. So let's undo that. Let's duplicate this track. And let's get rid of this one and copy this one over here. So then we can right click, go to item processing, and choose one of these two down here. Propagate based on take, and this is going to work on all tracks in the project, not just the first one. So if we choose this, it does it to all of them. But again, notice it didn't include the fades or the volume change. That -2, because we did it based on takes. So if these are different sizes with their own fades and their own levels, those will stay intact. If we choose the option, propagate take to all similar named active takes, the item properties stay intact. But if we choose the last action, down here, it's going to propagate the item and the take properties to all the similar named items on all the tracks in the project. Choose this, and it basically duplicated our item and take properties to all the tracks where the items are named the same. So as you can see, it's very useful for duplicating properties. So that's propagating items and takes in Reaper. I hope you learned something, hope you can use it, and I'll see you next time. Thanks.
Bye.